Hi everyone. Some people have needed a little bit of extra revision on how to implement the binary search into our guess the number game. So this video is a quick reminder about the process. So I have on my screen the worksheet and I've also got a calculator because that'll come in handy as well. Of course you can use a real calculator, you don't need to use one on your computer, but this way I can record what I'm doing. So if I scroll down, there's some information about the binary search again. It is worth reading, but really, for the sake of this video, we're just going to jump down to the work itself. So here we have the blank table that we'd be filling in. For this particular worksheet, it is asking you to do this task 3 times for these different ranges of values. I'm not going to use exactly these values for this example. I'm just going to do 1 to 1000 just to make it a little bit shorter, but the process of course is identical. I would suggest, because you have to do this 3 times for the worksheet though, that you do in fact copy the table 2 more times before you start filling anything in, because of course once you do fill things in, you then have to waste some time clearing it out before you copy it again. So I'm not going to do that here again because I'm only going to do it once, but I do recommend that you copy it first. Okay, so the idea here is that you're basically going to play the guess the number game just against yourself, but what you're going to be doing is making sure that you actually implement the binary search. And of course, the binary search, the basic idea is that we are always looking for the middle number of whatever range we have. So we essentially are halving the possibilities every time we have a guess. So for this particular example, I'm going to pick the number 722. Okay, so I'm just typing that into this first square just to remind myself what number I have chosen. So for round 1 of the game, my lowest number would be the number 1. And because I said I'm just going to do to 1000, my upper number will be 1000. So I'm just going to type those values in there. It's then asking me to type in, in this third column here, how many values I have altogether. Okay, so if I've got the numbers 1 to 1000, it could be any of those numbers. And of course, I have 1000 values. Probably in the right place, 1000 values right now. Because it's a nice easy number, my middle will be 500, so that's what my guess is. And I tend to always say greater than, so I'm going to show the greater than symbol. So that's my guess is the number greater than 500. Okay, you can do less than, you can alternate if you want to, but as I've explained in class, I tend to always use greater, and I tend to always stay with one type of question. So all my questions are going to be, is the number greater than whatever my guess is. So in this case, is the number we're guessing greater than 500? Well, the number's 722 up here, so of course that is true. And I'm just going to put a T in there to make it simple. Okay, so now I go to round 2. So my number has to be greater than 500 because I said it was true. So that means the lowest number it could be would be 501. Okay, because it has to be greater than 500, not 500. Okay, my upper now is still 1000. That hasn't changed. So how many values do I have here? So again, this one you could probably just quickly work it out in your head, but this is where our calculator starts to come in handy. So to work out the value count, of course, take your upper number and take away from that your lower number. So if I have 1000 and I take away 501, of course it's 499. So there are 499 values in this. And what we can see is that we have basically halved the number from the first round. It's not exactly half because, of course, there's always a bit of variation for the greater than, less than, etc., and for rounding, as we'll see soon. But you can see it's basically halved the count. Okay, so now we need our middle value. And this is the first place a lot of people make mistakes. They look at the value count and they'll halve that. So they'll go to 250-ish. But of course, that's not the middle of this range here. It needs to be the middle of between 501 and 1000. So again, the easiest way to get your middle is to use a very simple formula, which is to add your lower and your upper values together. So I'm going to add 501 plus 1000. So I get 1501, and then I simply divide that by 2 to get the middle. Now, of course, it's not always going to divide exactly into an equal whole number. So I've got 750.5. So I am going to round. And I'm going to apply normal rounding rules. So 0.5 is going to round up. So I'm going to make this 751. So my next guess is going to be, is the number greater than 751? And I ask myself, is that true or false? And of course, it is false now. 722 is not greater than 751. So I have a false response this time. So now I have the situation I have to look at my lower and upper for round 3. So it's not greater than 751. So my lower hasn't changed. It's still 501. But now we know it's not bigger than 751. So my upper becomes 751. Because it could be 751, but we know it's not greater than that anymore. So again, my value count. So to make my life easy, 751, so my upper, minus 501, which is my lowest number, means I have 250 numbers left. Okay? To find my middle, again, I'm going to use my calculator. So I'm going to add 501 plus 751, my upper and lower numbers. And then I'm going to divide that by 2. And this time it does come out to a whole number. So I'm just going to say, is the number greater than 626? And again, 722 is greater than 626. So this is true. So now my lowest number becomes 623 because it has to be bigger than 626. It can't be 626, it has to be bigger. So the smallest number becomes 623 and my highest number still becomes or stays as 751. So again, 751 minus 623 equals 128. So I have 128 numbers left. And again, if we look at this pattern, we're basically halving plus or minus a couple for rounding, etc. Every time. So the pattern seems to be holding true. What is it going to be? Again, if I add them together, 623 plus 751 equals this, and we divide it by 2, we get 687. So is the number greater than 687? Yes, it is. And I keep going. I'll probably do the next little bit in a bit of fast motion just to speed this video up, but the pattern holds true. Work out your upper and lowers, work out your value count to fill it in, work out what your guess is, and keep asking yourself the question and mark down true or false. Okay, we're coming very close to the end here. We're down to the last possible few guesses. So what we have here now, we've got the lowest number being 721 and the biggest number being 723. So we've really ended up with 721, 722, or 723 left. So we have 3 possible numbers that we could have, okay? So the middle number is going to be 722. Now, I know that the number is 722, of course, because I'm playing against myself, but normally you won't know. So I'm going to keep following the pattern, even though in theory I'm pretty much there. So I'm still going to say, is it greater than 722? Okay, and the person would say false. It's not greater than 722. So now I have a situation where I'm saying it has to be between 721, right, and 722. Because it's not greater than 722, but I still had 721 as my lowest possible number. So I'm now down to a binary choice, okay? And this is the whole point of the binary method, is we're halving every time, so we're going down in multiples of 2, basically. And we end up usually at this situation where we have 2 possible choices, okay? So now it is just a bit of a guess, and again, it depends on which way you go, right? Whether it's going to take 11 guesses or 12 guesses, in this case, we'll purely be down to luck as to which way you go. Because I've been going, is it greater than all the way down? My tendency would have been to take the bigger number and make that my first guess. And of course, if I'm wrong, then I would obviously choose the other option. But let's pretend for a moment that I didn't do it that way. So my guess here would be, okay, do I go 721, 722? So I'm going to say, is it equal to 721? And they're going to say false, okay? And I'll just put another line in here. So in that case, I now have my lowest number being 722 and my upper number being 722 with only one choice left. So of course now the only option to say is equal to 722, and of course that becomes true and I've won the game. Okay, so again, just as a really quick recap, we start off with our lower and upper numbers, right? Pretty straightforward at this point. We find the middle value. We ask that question, is it greater than or less than? Again, I suggest you pick one type and continue with that all the way through like I've done. And we answer the question true or false. Depending on the answer, we then adjust our upper and lower ranges, being careful with the greater or less than, okay? So make sure your upper or lowers change in relation to your greater than or less than question. Be careful you don't make a mistake there. It's probably not the end of the world, but it may mean that you end up excluding a number that you shouldn't, or including a number that you shouldn't. So just be careful with that. Work out what your value count is. This value count here is really for you to see that pattern. It doesn't technically help you with the question, okay, because the guess where you work out that middle number is the important part. But this variable count, or value count, sorry, is really for you to see and hopefully understand that we are basically halving each time, right? Plus or minus a couple because of variation, but really that was about understanding that this binary search halves the possible options that we have every single time we make a guess. Right, so even if we went up to the number 2000 as the upper number, we're only going to add one more guess to this game, because if we double 1000, we get to 2000. So halving it would also be the other way. So that's what value count was about, just understanding that. The guess, remember, the easy way is to add up your lower and upper values and then just divide it by 2. If you get a decimal value, which is quite common, just round. And I, again, suggest you use proper rounding and round it up to the nearest whole number. So you ask your question, or your guess, sorry, and then you answer it. And depending on that answer, you do round 2 and round 3 and so on, till you get down to one of these situations where you essentially get a 1 or 2 or 3 value count, which means it comes down to a little bit of dumb luck as to which one you pick, but eventually, one way or the other, you get down to one possible answer. Okay, and of course, when you've got one possible answer, it has to be the right answer. If it isn't, then you've made a mistake. Go back and recheck. Okay, if you get down to this and somehow you've got 730 or 723 as your only possible answer, then you've obviously made a mistake somewhere else in the working. So I hope this has helped you. You will have noticed when I did the bit in fast motion, I was still using the calculator, even though some of the answers got pretty simple. Again, just practice, just to show you that you can still do it. Okay. So if you're watching that a bit more closely, we'll have seen me still using it. But either way, whether you do it in your head, whether you do it on a calculator, whether you get a piece of paper out, it doesn't matter. Work them out correctly, follow the prompts, follow the process, I should say, and you'll get to the answer.